Welcome, everybody, to today's episode of the Lindsey Elmore Show. Today's episode is all about gratitude and how we can transform our lives using gratitude, using daily acts that transition us from a woe is me, I've had this trauma, I've had this loss, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough friends, I don't have a boyfriend in my life. And how do we completely transform our mindset to realize that we are richly and abundantly blessed, that we have everything that we need to create confidence, to build momentum, and to really take daily actions and allow them to build and compound on one another. First up, I will be interviewing Michelle Perry. Michelle is a social worker who worked for more than 20 years, sometimes in some really sad situations. She transitioned over to the corporate and business world where she really started realizing that leadership and coaching was what she loved. She now is a life empowerment coach, and she uses cognitive behavioral empowerment to help people overcome their obstacles and get to the other side. After that, I'm going to be challenging you to a gratitude commitment. Are you ready for it? Let's get to the show. Welcome to the Lindsey Elmore Show, a podcast that helps you find fulfillment amidst chaos. On this show, I interview thought leaders, doctors, creatives, spiritual gurus, and game changers who inspire you to pursue your dreams, overcome obstacles, and leave your mark. So often we talk about self-care, and not that many people really take a moment to decide what does that mean to them. But how does self-care benefit you? And not just superficial self-care of like, oh yeah, I went and got a massage, but like genuine self-acceptance and knowing who you are and trusting and having confidence that that person is exactly who you are supposed to be. When we do practice self-care, it affects our physical health. It creates greater moments for relaxation in our lives, which helps to prevent us from experiencing chronic stress, which can be extraordinarily damaging to our health. It also affects our emotional self. When we live inside well cared for bodies, it makes you feel good about yourself. It makes you feel great about your life. It helps you to want to get out of bed on a Monday morning. It also makes you a better caregiver for other people. When you neglect yourself, people are in danger of having higher levels of unhappiness, low self-esteem. We resent the life that we have been given and gifted to live. And when we are then put in a position where we have to care for someone else, we risk getting completely burned out. So that allows you to be a better parent, a better child, all of the things. When we practice true self-care of finding time for quiet and for leisure within our day, it gives us a break from stress. It gives us time to be alone. It offers us soothing feelings. So whether you are taking a bath, getting a pedicure, going and getting a facial, getting a massage, meditation, good Lord, you guys know how much meditation can change your life. Whatever you do, do it in a way that cares for you. On today's show, I am going to be talking with Michelle Perry. Michelle established herself as a subject matter expert over the course of her career in clinical social work that spanned more than 20 years. She transitioned into the corporate business world where she leveraged her leadership and coaching skills and produces results for all of the clients that she works with. She almost failed out of high school, but then went on to earn a master's degree in advanced clinical social work from Columbia University, as well as a bachelor's degree in human development and social work with an education focus from Wheelock College within Boston University. Her formal education combined with her life of victory over trauma and loss, financial hardships, and a complete mindset transformation has equipped and enhanced Michelle's skills as a life empowerment coach, where she uses these skills as a way to create powerful change so that people can contribute more to the world around them and actually see the results of the work that they are doing. She also has a group called the Biracial Cafe, which is a community for women who have one African American parent and another Caucasian parent. It is meant to be a safe, truthful, and supportive relationship area so that people can nurture themselves and realize that they don't have to go in this box or that box to be a person who has value. So, Michelle Perry, welcome to the Lindsey Elmore Show.
I am so excited to be here. It's such an honor, and I am really looking forward to our conversation.
Well, I just want to start. You say you've been through some ups and some downs in life. And so talk to us about the traumas that you went through. You almost failed out of high school. What got you to this place? And maybe take us back to the beginning. Where was that breaking point where you said, if I don't change my life is going to change me?
I've had a couple of those moments, and I think it really started when I was born. I was born in the 70s. I grew up in the 70s where interracial couples were not celebrated. It wasn't as common as it is today. My father ended up leaving my life at age 3. My parents got divorced. And so I had a lot of rejection issues, self-esteem issues, self-worth issues. I was sort of like a lost soul, didn't have purpose. In high school, I never earned an A. It was B's for the first semester and then C, D, F going through. And it was a miracle I even got accepted to college. And my life really changed on January 2nd, 1992. And that
Oh,
was a
just, I mean, you know it that well.
well, it was a pivotal moment where there was a boy in my class who nobody paid attention to, nobody really liked or disliked. He was just sort of there. And what happened was he ended up taking his life in front of us by drinking something in a cup. And I was the last person to see him without life on the floor. And I remember when they brought in the counselors and they named the tree after him and they named the gym after him. And I was so angry. I was so rageful, not at him for what he did, but at us for not paying attention to him before he made that decision. And that moment was what really gave me purpose in life, to serve others, to pay attention to other people, to give what I could to anyone and everyone to prevent them from feeling that despair to want to make that choice. And going through life, in social service, child welfare, foster care and adoption, it's very traumatic. It's hard life, dark situations. I forgot to pay attention to myself, and I forgot to take care of myself. And my husband says I became a crazy person. And what I had to do was make a decision to make myself a priority and to take care of myself mentally, emotionally, physically. And that was what caused me to choose to leave social work and go into corporate and serve people in a different way. And so I've been able to do that successfully. And I always say the package may change, but your purpose in life does not. And so I've been able to serve and fulfill my purpose just in a different way.
hmm So that's major when you go through something that profound when you can, I mean, you remember it like it was a line in the sand. Your life was forever changed. I think that so many people would have shrunk and contracted in that, but you allowed that to be an impetus to help other people. And so when people go through trauma, what did you learn about how you can process your traumas and use them to make you a better person versus some other people saw the same thing that you did and it either did not change them, they were like, meh, who cares? Or they're still suffering from it to this day. And so, what can people do when we go through traumas so that we know that we can become better because of it?
I think the first thing to do is to tell the truth because I was so rageful and angry that, the first instinct is to sort of push it away, that emotion, but I had to honor it because it was so impactful on me as a person, and it took me years to process, to be honest with you. I am a writer, so I was writing, essays and poems and all these things, and in college was when I really came to terms with it. But then again, it comes up in different seasons of life. I have a book I'm coming out with called The Pebble in My Shoe, which is sort of what the grief
Congratulations.
process is like. Because grief doesn't go away. It's a lifelong process. And I think the key is to pay attention to how you feel emotionally and also in your body, because trauma gets trapped physically as well. And you have to be intentional about honoring the process of going through whatever it is that makes you let it out and feel better, because it's different for different people. For me, it was writing and talking about it and honoring the emotion. For other people, it may be, applying a principle, or having a mindset, or whatever it is for people. But you have to be truthful and you have to be intentional about processing it.
And so how do you process it? Like what do I do? I don't know what to do.
Well, you recognize that something's going on. So, like when I was in social work, and they call it vicarious traumatization, where you're sort of like a sponge and you absorb the energy and trauma of other people. I didn't recognize that that wasn't me. And so I felt like it was me, and I was starting to internalize it until I began to ask myself questions, and different questions. Is this true? Is this really me? How do I know that? And then honoring, and I go back to honoring all the time because I think we dismiss what we feel, what we think so often. And we have to be truthful and compassionate to ourselves before we can give that to other people. And so when you're processing a trauma, give yourself the space to feel all of the feels, think all of the thoughts, even if they're messy, even if they're scary, even if they're quote unquote wrong. There is no emotion that's wrong. It's what you feel. It is the reality. And then you can move past it by choice once you have acknowledged it, honor it, and then you can dismiss it, incorporate it, sort of work it in how you need to.
Yeah, and I think the other thing is it's powerful to recognize that for every negative emotion, there is an equal and opposite positive emotion that you can push yourself towards, um, even on those days where you just feel like, am I really going to be worth it? Is it really worth it? And so, how does for you gratitude play into your daily journey?
I'm smiling at you. If you're not watching, I'm smiling because that is exactly where I was heading, because gratitude changed my life. Gratitude allowed me to be able to choose to reframe how I saw things. And instead of it being something that happened to me, it happened for me. It was a growth opportunity, it was a learning opportunity. It exposed more of who I am to myself. And I used to be very victim mentality, woe is me, very dark minded about society. And I recognized, I was self aware enough to know that this is not working for me. This is not going to serve me long term. And I didn't know how to be grateful. You hear that all the time, be grateful, implement gratitude. Well, how do you do that? And I actually wrote a course called Gateway to Gratitude about how to be grateful. And I started with one statement every day when I opened my eyes, one thing I'm grateful for. And I started with, I'm grateful to be on this side of the dirt. That was it. That was all I had to be grateful for at times. But doing that consistently every single day creates a habit and a pattern, and it rewires your brain to look for things that you can be grateful for. And then when you find it, it gets reinforced because have you ever bought a new car and then all of a sudden you see that car everywhere? Your brain is looking for the evidence to reinforce that. The same goes with gratitude and positive thoughts. And so implementing that consistently strengthens that neural pathway in your brain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. I've heard people say, like, just write down 5 things that you're grateful for. And so many people say, I don't know what I'm grateful for. And I'm just like, are you breathing? Like, did you wake up today? Do you have a roof over your head? I think we get so complacent with how blessed we are, we forget to say thank you for all of that. So, Michelle, you started talking a moment ago about habits and how getting into the habit of being gracious can transform your life. What other habits do you see that the most successful people have?
I think mindset and the narrative that we tell ourselves, most successful people I find have a very positive self talk and self narrative that they have curated. It doesn't happen overnight, it's not by happen chance, it's intentional choice of what we tell ourselves. And I think that we can always choose what our thoughts are and what we believe because some thoughts don't belong to us. They come in our minds and we can choose whether or not to accept them or not. And if it's not serving me, I reject that thought and replace it with one that is going to serve me. And I curate a positive self narrative and a positive self talk to myself. And that leads to me making successful choices and being diligent and showing up every day and being focused on where I want to go in life.
Mm-hmm. So, when you think about mindset and the way that we talk to ourselves about our own experiences, I think a lot of people don't take the time to stop and realize that is a false narrative that I am telling myself. So if someone is unaware that they are a negative Nelly and that is holding them back in life, where do they start? Like, how do you start shifting that narrative?
It's interesting. I had a client in my coaching practice who she didn't realize how negative she was because she was trying to be the best version of herself. And so that was her thought process. And when I pointed out to her that every sentence that she said in response to a question that I asked was negative, she wasn't aware of it because when you're in it, it's hard to see it. And so if you pay attention to the feedback that you get from other people, that can be clue number one. If you don't have a coach, just pay attention to what people say to you. And there's themes in feedback that people give you because I think that the universe, God, however your, spiritual practice is, will bring to you the lessons that you need to conquer because you're going to go around the same mountain until you conquer that lesson to then move forward to the next one. And so if you pay attention, you will recognize and become aware. And once you're aware, then you can start to choose something different.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think it's a matter of actually stopping for a moment and asking yourself, is this true? Is it true for me? Or is this a false narrative that I have been told? So thinking about false narratives, there's a lot of false narratives around the issue of race. And so I want to talk more about your biracial cafe and why did you see this need, and what are the kinds of things that come up when you are raised biracial? What challenges did that what opportunities did that afford you for growth?
Oh my goodness, that is a loaded question right there. But speaking of false narratives, I grew up completely engrossed in my Jewish community. I didn't even know that I was Black until I was 14 years old, which is a whole nother podcast in and of itself. But I think the false narrative of this race is bad, this race is good, you have privilege because of this, you don't have privilege because of that, all of that may or may not be true for the individual. And I think when we ask ourselves, is this true? Where is the evidence? How do you know that it's true? And, when I finally accepted that the world saw me as a Black person, I had no idea what that meant. I was like, what does that even mean? And I had to go on this journey to find out what that meant. And then I flipped over to the other side and said, well, white is horrible and bad. Black and I'm proud, and that's the way to go, except that my whole family and my mother is white
Right.
and Jewish. And I can't deny that part of myself because I grew up, I was bat mitzvah, all the things. And it wasn't until college when I was introduced to a friend of mine who had a Black mother and a white father, and it was celebrated. It was a beautiful tapestry of their household. Her sister looked like a white person with blonde hair, green eyes. My friend looked like a light-skinned Black person with brown skin and brown hair and brown eyes. But it was so celebrated to be both. You didn't have to choose. That was a concept I had not been introduced to. And I was like, wow, this is new. Can I do that too? That was the question. Is this me too? And I had to learn to incorporate that narrative, that thought process that biracial is beautiful. Biracial is not choosing, it's integrated and it's me. And I can bring that gift to the world. And when I was growing up, I didn't know anybody biracial. I didn't know anybody who had that mixture. Hair products, oh my goodness, I had a dry square afro until I was like 13. And so I started the Biracial Cafe for people who may or may not have that other person who can understand intimately that journey and can say, hey, I understand. And I really do understand because I lived it. And let me support you. Let me educate on hair products or this or that and help you to develop and understand the beauty of who you are as both. You don't have to choose.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it is so powerful, regardless of race, whatever it is. But when you can actually see yourself for who you are and recognize that that is perfection in and of itself, that's exactly who you're meant to be. That's the greatest blessing that has ever been gifted to anyone. And it's one of the things that I am most grateful for in my life because my mom always raised me. She's like, what will the neighbors think? Because that's how she was raised. That's what her grandmother always said. She asked me that when I was a kid, and I was like, Mom, I could not care less what the neighbors think. And that's gotten me into trouble a few times, but
Yeah.
it also gives me the freedom to simply be who I am and to be that way unapologetically all of the time. So that's really cool that you've brought together a group of people who have similar life experiences because all we're ever looking for in the world is to know that we matter, to know that we really, really, truly matter. And so self care is one of the ways that we show ourselves that we really matter. But you say that self care needs to go one step further and become true self management. What does that mean?
So I really believe that self care is essential to life and freedom and being able to gift the world with who you are. And self management is recognizing that you have to take care of your mind. You have to take care of your emotions. You have to take care of your body and your spirit. And you have to manage that on a daily basis. So you have to be aware, number one, of what's going on in your internal world, which is why 5 minutes a day, maybe start with 1 minute a day, build up your practice of meditation, of quiet time, of gratitude, whatever it is, to get in touch with the truth of who you are at your core, and then begin to celebrate that however small it is. Celebrate your uniqueness and then manage taking care of yourself non negotiable, unapologetically. I love that word, unapologetically. I am going to put myself first as a priority, my mental health, my emotional health, my physical health, and who I am. And I'm going to curate the care of that for my lifetime and for myself because I'm worth it. I deserve it. And, the people that I'm supposed to touch and impact, they deserve it too. They want the best version of yourself.
Yes, and we don't have the capacity to give to other people when we are in a position where we're so drained, where we're so empty, that we don't have that power anymore. And so, what do you think the benefits of like true self management? How does this really help to transform our lives?
I think it gives you a focus. I used to be very unfocused and sort of all over the place, scatterbrained every day. But now I have a purpose for every moment of every day. Now, I also build in moments of nothingness or moments of distraction because I need that sometimes to like let my brain unfold and process. But it gives you the freedom to choose what your life is going to look like because your care and the priority of yourself comes first and everything else follows that, knowing that the purpose of that is so that you can gift the world with who you are and be a benefit and a value to everyone that you meet. There's a freedom, there's a lightness, there's just it's joy that just exudes from you when you are being true to yourself and you're taking care of yourself on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm. And so you mentioned meditation, and I mentioned at the top of the show that we can also consider things like, getting nails done, getting facials, getting this, getting that. But what are some things that don't cost anything that you can still incorporate into daily routines?
For me, it's a gratitude practice. The moment my eye opens, I say at least one thing. Now it's more, but my eyes open, and my first thought, I've trained my brain to do this, is what am I grateful for? And then when I'm in the shower, I'm repeating things I'm grateful for. I'm also planning my day so that I feel comfortable to show up because I'm solid in what I have planned. I know what I have to achieve. I'm a very, goal-oriented person, so I want to check off all the boxes. So I work that time into my shower because I may not have time after that to do that. And then in the middle of the day, I make sure that I incorporate quiet time, and I use an app called Balance where it's an actual meditation app. It's 3 minutes, but it resets my body, my breathing, my brain, and brings me back to center so that I can focus on the rest of my day. And the app is free. Your shower is free, hopefully, unless you pay for your water, but that's free. Gratitude and talking to yourself internally is free. I make sure that I celebrate myself at the end of the day. What did I win today? Whether it was just making it through the day alive, that's a win some days on those hard days. What did I do well? Who did I make smile today? Who did I notice and they showed me their gratitude by, I recognize that they're alive, they matter. For me, that brings joy. So celebrating the wins every day is another thing that I do on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think it's so important to just realize like you made it through the day. Yay, you did it again. All of those things. I think we strive way too hard for perfection when really none of us are perfect. We're never going to be perfect. And so why even try?
I don't really believe in perfection. I always say perfection is an illusion because we're never going to be perfect on this side of the earth. We reach for excellence, absolutely, but there's always another dimension to conquer, to become better. It's a journey of life until we take our last breath. You can always be better. You can always grow. You can always learn. So for me, perfection is an illusion, but I strive for excellence because I
mhm.
can reach excellence.
Yeah. So you founded a course and you have your website, Successful Diligence. You have the Successful Diligence podcast. Tell us about What is Successful Diligent? What are the goals of the company? How do you work with people? And how do you help people create lives that foster, passion and laughter and joy and have purpose and strive for excellence, all of those things? What is successful diligence?
Successful Diligence is a company that really is about self development and empowerment. And we do that through empowerment coaching, which is individualized, specific to the person, coaching them on where they are in life, where they want to go, and how they're going to get there. I also do have the podcast, Successful Diligence Podcast, which is all about motivation and inspiration and equipping you with strategies that you can actually implement to make your life better so that you want to get up on a Monday morning because we only get one life to live. Why not enjoy it? And then the school, I have different courses, Gateway to Gratitude. I've got a mindset course, a life transformation course, which is my signature program, and then a legacy course, which is all about your impact and influence on the world because we all have influence and we all make an impact. And when you're conscious about that, you can make it a positive one. And so successful diligence is really about curating diligent efforts so that you can lead a successful life that you're proud of, that you want to be living, and that can leave a legacy that will benefit every single person when you leave the earth.
So you also, on your website, looking at your courses, you have something called the butterfly transformation. And so what is the butterfly impact and what does that mean?
Yeah, so the butterfly transformation is my signature course, and I'm actually developing the butterfly development program. It actually came from a podcast episode that I did in my season one called The Butterfly Impact, where I talked about we are who we are whatever the season of life is. Like if you're an apple tree, you're going to be an apple tree in the winter, in the summer, in the spring. If you've got snow on you, if your leaves are falling off, you're still the apple tree. Well, the butterfly starts out as this, I'm not a bug person, so an ugly, weird looking, hairy insect, right? That their whole job is to eat and get fat. Not what I want to do in life, but that's what the caterpillar's job is. And then the caterpillar is really the butterfly just in that stage. And then it goes into the cocoon, which is dark and dirty and messy. And it's literally eating itself and transforming into what it really is at the core, which is that beautiful butterfly that's going to fly and show beauty to every person that sees it. And that really is the metaphor for who we are. And so the butterfly transformation course takes a person through that process for themselves. Where are you? Identification. Where are you? What are you thinking? Let's deal with your mindset, your emotional state. Where are you? Then let's go into the cocoon and let's really dig into what is holding you back from living a life you want to get up on a Monday morning for. What is it? And let's deal with that and let's work through that so that you can unlayer and uncover the true, beautiful self that you are, and then break out and share that with the world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when we live a life where we don't put an emphasis on becoming the best, most amazing version of ourselves, we don't work out our karma, which is what we are here on earth to do, is to work out, why am I going through this human experience? What is the meaning of my life? And we set ourselves up for coming to the end of our lives and realizing I didn't live my life fully. And that is absolutely tragic. That is one of the places that I definitely do not want to be. I want to get to the end of my life and go, I did the best I could for the most people that I could. And I lived authentically according to my own ethics and principles. I loved the person that I wanted to love. I, created relationships with friends and family that I love. And most importantly, I craft a relationship with myself that shows that I love myself.
Yeah, my grandfather's going to be 100 years old next week. And I always say, when I get to be 100 plus, God willing, I'm going to be there. I want to look back over my life and smile because I'm living it again through the memories. And like you said, to know that I lived in truth and that I impacted other people and that I didn't miss out on those opportunities because of fear or lack of courage or whatever it is, but I actually lived my life. I didn't just survive, I thrived. And
Mm-hmm.
that is, we all come to this earth with a specific purpose to fulfill. And the tragedy, like you said, is when you get to the graveyard and you see all of those lives that never actually reached their fulfillment or their purpose. And it's not only them that lose out, it's the people that they were supposed to impact that also lose out because they didn't get the gift of that person.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. When you don't show up for yourself, the world misses out on you. And there's only one you, be yourself. Everybody else is taken. Well, Michelle, it's been such an honor talking to you. Before I let you go, can I ask you a couple of lightning round questions?
Yes, you can. I'm up for it.
All right, here we go. What is your number one strength?
My number one strength, I think, is empathy and the ability to recognize the strengths of other people.
What is the thing that you struggle with the most?
Time management. There's so much I want to do, and there's not enough hours in the day.
If you could give advice to your younger self, what would it be?
I would tell her that she is loved and to relax in the knowledge of that.
I love that. What keeps you up at night?
Nothing. I sleep really well.
Good. Good for you. Who has been your greatest inspiration?
I'm going to say this and it's going to sound weird, but it's the confident humility. I have been my greatest inspiration. The person who I used to be and the courage to conquer all that I've conquered has inspired me and continues to inspire me to move forward.
Absolutely. Last but not least, God to you is.
God to me is peace, joy, and love.
Ah, well, and that is definitely something to be grateful for. So, Michelle, it has been so wonderful to talk to you. If you would like to learn more about Michelle's work, go and check her out at www.successfuldiligence.com, and you too can learn how to become the best butterfly version of yourself from Michelle Perry. Thank you so much for being on the Lindsey Elmore Show.
This was so fun, such an honor, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. Thank you.
Do you feel overwhelmed by the constant pressure to look right, act right, and be perfect? Yep, as we have heard from today's guests, lots of women feel the exact same way. But let me tell you something, friends. What is more important than listening to everyone else's opinions about who you are and who you're supposed to be? It is much more important that you exert your own personal power and make decisions for yourself. I have a free download for you. It's a 7-step guide that will teach you how to cut through confusion and decide what is right for you in your life. You will learn how to practice self-care, serve a greater purpose, tap into your intuition, and listen to your body. To download the free ebook, all you have to do is head to www.lindseyelmore.com/ebook. Like I said, it's totally free. Head to www.lindseyelmore.com/ebook and download a 7-step guide to making decisions that honor your inner voice, optimize your health, and serve your highest purpose. There are many people that go through life with a woe is me, everything is terrible kind of attitude. And one of the easiest ways that you can transform your attitude from the negative to the positive is by maintaining an attitude of gratitude. It can be as simple as waking up every single morning and allowing the first thought that comes into your mind be, I am so grateful. That may seem extremely simple, but how many times do you wake up and you're like, ugh, the kids woke me up, or ugh, the cat woke me up, or ugh, there's the alarm all over again? it can be really easy to fall into patterns of dissatisfaction and feeling like there's nothing out there for you to get love and resilience, and finding a place where you intentionally flip that switch and say, holy crap, I have so much to be grateful for. I challenge each of you, sit down right now and write down 10 things that you're grateful for. If you have to pause the podcast, go ahead, come on back. And if you're one of those people who sits with a blank sheet of paper and goes, I don't know anything I'm grateful for, this is a podcast for you. Keep in mind that the blessings that surround us are extraordinarily abundant. We have blessings around us that we don't even see. You know, here I sit inside of a house, and yet I am missing the blessings of the grass growing outside, or the birds chirping, or whatever else is happening in the natural world that I'm not seeing because I'm inside. But what a blessing it is to be inside. Can you imagine if you were outside all of the time looking in on other people's windows? How many of you have seen those Christmas movies where there's, the poor person looking into the cathedral or looking into the window, longing to be inside? We can give blessings for almost anything in our life. Before our feet hit the floor in the morning, if we can wake up and say, I am so grateful. I mean, you just woke up to breathe another day. Like, that is a blessing. Imagine how many people did not wake up to breathe another day. Imagine how many of those were young people, perhaps suffering from addiction, or suffering from mental illness, or suffering from a early onset cancer that claimed their life too early. Imagine the suffering that their families are going through, and you're really going to complain that the kids woke you up or that the alarm is going off. Take a moment while you're laying in bed and say, I am so grateful. I am so grateful. So here's the thing. I want to challenge myself to do something. I am going to challenge myself to do 100 days of gratitude. For those of you that know me, sticking to things, consistency is not my jam. It's not my jam, but I've been reading the compound effect, by Darren Hardy. And he just says, if you're not consistent, you're not successful. Yikes. So I thought, I've never done like a full on gratitude journal. I've done plenty of journals in my life. I've kept track of plenty of my emotions, but I've never had one dedicated solely to gratitude. So I made a handout with my team that you can download on the Lindsey Elmore, lindseyelmore.com. Just head to the podcast and find this episode all about gratitude. And it will give you one sentence each day of gratitude. One sentence of things that you can be grateful for the next 100 days. Envision how your life might change if you stayed in the place of gratitude for months on end. What if that turned into years? And what if that turned into decades? And what if that turned into 50 years of sitting back and just going, wow, I am so grateful for the world around me and for being a part of this human experience. We're spiritual beings, and spiritual beings need gratitude in our lives. Some people struggle to know where to start when it comes to gratitude. So here are 10 things that I think any of us can be grateful for. And many of them come from my own personal experiences, and other ones simply don't. What about the air around us? Living out here in the country has made me so much more grateful for the air that I breathe. Don't get me wrong. I love the big city. I love New York. I love Hong Kong. I love Singapore. I love San Francisco. I love a big city. But to come out and realize I can take a breath in and I can take a breath out. and the air is there for me to breathe. That's powerful. If you have nowhere else to start, give gratitude for the fact that there is oxygen in the air for us to breathe. Girl, you got a roof over your head? Well, be grateful for that. You got clothes on your back? Be grateful for that. Even if you don't like your clothes, even if you don't like the people that live under that roof with you, you still got them. And that is more than a lot of people can say. A lot of people walk through shoes that are threadbare. A lot of people do not have a roof over their head and are living in a car or on the streets or in a shelter or are crashing on somebody else's couch, not knowing where their next apartment might come from. You know, be grateful for the heat. Goodness knows I'm grateful for the air conditioner that's currently running in my home. These are simple things that we can all be grateful for. The air we breathe, the roof over our head, the clothes on our back. Even more importantly, the clean water that we as Americans and Canadians and Europeans and most of Asia that comes straight out of our tap. In Australia, New Zealand, in so many places, water flows freely and we have plenty of drinkable water. There are more than 780 million people worldwide that lack access to safe drinking water. Imagine if this morning you had to wake up and walk 4 miles just to access the nearest river to you. And then guess what? You got to drag all those 5, 6, 10 gallons of water back to your home. Be grateful for the water that you have. I am extraordinarily blessed in my life. I have never worried where my next meal is coming from. Even though we were solidly middle class, at times perhaps even lower middle class, there was always food. And I didn't really have the lower middle class, but my parents, my grandparents, especially my grandparents and my great-grandparents, they were poor. You know, my grandmother was born in 1929, and she remembers her mother packing her lunch because she didn't have a nickel to pay for the school lunch. She also remembers eating snap beans for days and days on end because that's what was in the garden. So even in the poorest of circumstances, I've been blessed for generations to always know where my next meal was coming from because my family were always farmers. We didn't always have we weren't always high on the hog. We weren't always doing all of the amazing things, but we always had food, even generations and generations ago. And that has carried forward to when I was raised. I never worried about where my next meal went from. I didn't even have to have subsidized lunches. You know, I always had enough food. And there are so many children that do not. And there are so many parents that go without food and pretend not to be hungry because they want their children to have food. We are in a time where a lot of people feel like personal freedoms are being eroded, but we can still enjoy the sunrise. We can still enjoy the rustle of wind through trees. We can still enjoy the sound of water flowing in an ocean or a river or a stream. You ever had one of those moments where it was one of those beautiful spring days and everything is just popping open, verdant green? Everything is just there, bursting with life. Or maybe you have the opposite emotion where you feel in the autumn where the beginning of death and the beginning of decay, the natural life cycle is starting to take hold and it bursts forth with vibrant, beautiful colors. We all have friends, we all have family. Sometimes they drive us crazy, sometimes we don't want to be around them. But I know I, for one, am very grateful for the family that raised me and for the friends that have surrounded me throughout my life. And I'm grateful to have expanded my friend group over the course of years. So I am grateful for my friends and family and the people that surround me. What about your health? Too often we sit back and we think, oh, well, I'm achy, or oh, I have this pain, or oh, I'm overweight, or oh, I drank too much last night. Why did I do that to myself? And we beat ourselves up, and we don't take a moment to just go, wow, I don't have cancer. I don't have HIV. I don't have some major infectious disease that I don't have to worry about. I don't have autoimmune disorders. Maybe you do. You can still be grateful for the fact that you don't have asthma as well, that you still have hair on your head, that you are still able to head to the gym. There is something within your help, even if you are facing a sickness or an illness, that you can be grateful for. We don't have indestructible bodies, but we do have the ability to control our body's potential by getting plenty of sleep, by loving people more, by creating great healthy food to place on our table. And healthy food does not have to be expensive, and it should not be out of reach for anyone. So if you're able to stress less, meditate, and really put good food on your table, create those social connections, and really ensure that you can move your body, you have the keys to health already in your hand. No matter what that movement is, no matter what that healthy food looks like for you, bless it, give gratitude, and ask it to kindly nourish your body, and we're well on our way. Another thing I've always been grateful for, I have traveled the world for many, many a year. And I remember when I first started traveling, especially traveling by myself as a young woman, I ran into people and they would say, you shouldn't tell people where you're going. You shouldn't ask directions. You shouldn't ask strangers where you should go and check out in the city, because what if something happens? I, for the most part throughout my life, have understood that most people are generally good people. The kindness that people who you have never met before is profound. When I first moved to New York City, I made a mistake, and I forever regretted it, and I forever regretted it from the moment that it happened. And if I could turn back the clocks and say that I was sorry and that I made a mistake, I would. But I can't. So all I can do is tell you about it and ask the divine for forgiveness. I first moved to New York, and I was there walking through Central Park by myself. And, New Yorkers have this reputation that we're supposed to be standoffish, and we're supposed to have this like persona of being, we're jaded, we're this, we're that. And this girl walks up to me and begins to ask me a question. Well, I have my headphones in, and I put my hands up, and I'm like, no. I think she's trying to sell me something. I think something else is going awry, blah, blah, blah. I take a second and I walk 2 steps away. She gives me this look. She gives me this really defeated, scared look that I did not have the consciousness to recognize until about 3 seconds later. And I walk past her, and I realized she was lost and did not know where she was in Central Park, and was staring at a map, unsure, and needed my help. And I did not help her in that moment, and I regret it forever. Because looking back on it, I did not afford her the kindnesses that had been afforded to me. So I state this out loud, and I ask for forgiveness, and I hope and pray that there was someone with more cognizance and more presentness, because that was my problem. I wasn't present. That was my problem. I was in my headphones. I didn't care what was going on around me. I was walking through Central Park being a New Yorker. Dang it. Don't stop me. Don't ask me to buy something from you. And I realized I did not afford her the kindness that I have asked of other people so many times. So if anyone out there is listening to this and someone stops them on the street and your instinct is to go, I don't know you, take a moment and reach inside and find the part of yourself that is vulnerable and lost and needs the kindness of a stranger. Another thing I think that we can be thankful for is all of the bumps, the bruises, the trials, the tribulations, the everything that brought us where we are now. If you read my Instagram, you know that I was a bit of a hellacious child. I put my mama through a lot. And I know now, looking back on it, that it's just simply because I have a challenging personality. I am a challenger. I am an Enneagram type 8. I didn't fit well as a teenager in being told what to do, in being told as a part of your discipline, you're going to have this taken away from you. I balked at that. That led me to be in bad relationships. The fact that my parents got divorced left me searching for relationships with men that I thought would fill a void that had been left in me that I now realize only love and God can fill. But I look back on those setbacks and I just go, man, if I hadn't been through that, I would not be where I am right now. If you can't think of anything else to be grateful for, be grateful you're alive. You were put on this earth for a purpose. And the more that you refuse to believe that you are a blessed child of the universe, the more you deny your God-given right to happiness, health, graciousness. And I empower you today. Join me on 100 days of gratitude starting today. Let's do it together. And then let's create something powerful of all of the things that we are grateful for. The big, the small, the things of the people and the pets that sometimes annoy you, but then you look at them and you go, what would life be without them? I am so grateful. Stay with an attitude of gratitude, lest we devolve into cantankerousness, disconnection from ourselves and from the greater good and the greater God around us. Be blessed. Be grateful. The Lindsey Elmore Show is written and produced by me, Lindsey Elmore. Show segments are produced by Sue Procco and Kelsey Lorman. Production design, sound design, and editing is by Jive Media. If you have a question about this or any other episode of the podcast, send us an email to hello@lindseyelmoreshow.com. And hey, since you're still here, take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And while you're at it, go over and follow us on Instagram @Lindsey Elmore Show. This helps us bring the pod to more people.